As everybody knows, subpart S changed in the standard not too long ago. When it actually went into effect when? December 1507. The books you have, the new standard manuals, do have the revised standard in them. Yes, they do. It has the new standard in them. You can find that on page 419. The thing about the standard is that it's very simple. You can find it in there any place. The problem is understanding what you're reading. Several letters of interpretation. Letters of interpretation out there. I talked about earlier this morning, the easiest way to find them is to go into the standard on the OSHA.gov website. And where it's bolded and underlined, so they can click on that and that'll take you into every letter of interpretation about that particular paragraph or that section of the manual that you were looking at. Now, subpart S. This part of the standard, PowerPoint we got part of it updated. We didn't get it all updated. But what we're going to be going through, for anybody that's interested in the comparison between the two, once you register for conference, how many of you stayed for conference? Okay. When you register for conference, in the manual for the conference, the schedule, it has my email address in there. Send me an email and I will send you a copy of that errata sheet that shows what the old standard was and what the new one is and what the changes were. Fair deal? Electricity can be an electrifying experience. Believe it or not. How deep is the water? 3 foot high, right? Thing is, do you always have to come into contact with electricity for it to cause you harm or death? No. How much current is needed to cause you serious injury or death? It's scoped out, right? What protection do you have in your homes, in your offices, in your workplaces that are going to protect you from? A lot of people will usually come up and say, well, I got fuses and circuit breakers. Fuses and circuit breakers start at 15 amps. You had old fuses, the old screw-in fuses. After you started, you kept blowing a 15 amp fuse, you fixed that by putting in a 20. When the 20 amp blew, you put in a 30. And when the 30 amp blew, you put the penny in the bag. They're real pennies, because the new ones don't conduct. And when did you take that penny out? Oh, you have to. After it burns down and before the fire investigator, the arson investigator gets there. Once it burns, they got to take that meter head off, then you can get that penny out without getting shot. So I've been told. Yeah, right. Now, if you want to know really the amount of current that it takes to cause you serious injury or death is not measured in amps. It's not measured in tenths, hundreds, it's in milliamps, 1/1000th of an amp. 50 to 75 thousandths of an amp can cause your heart to leave normal sinus rhythm and it go into ventricular fibrillation, VTAC. And if not brought back into normal sinus rhythm, you can die. Cut and dry. Simple. You always have to come in contact with electrical wires to receive that electrical shock. No. If the conditions are right, it can arc great distances. Transmitted through water, any conductor. We're talking about conductors, insulators, stuff like that. We're also going to address the fact that you don't really want to get in and out of your vehicle when you're fueling up. It's not the cell phone that causes the fire. It's that static electricity that arcs across the metal handle on the nozzle and causes that to ignite the vapors at the right concentration, causes it to burn. So, Electricity. It's very hazardous, unpredictable. The electrical wires that you deal with in the environment. You're pretty much protected with them though, right? They're insulated, right? I see this deer in the headlight look at there. I know lunch was good and there was a lot of it. But all the current carrying lines out there are bare wire. They're not insulated. When you start talking about dealing with electricity and the high voltage, the people that actually work on that, work on it in some cases barehanded, but they're at the same potential. In other words, they are working at the same potential that wire is. In order for anything to seriously happen to them, what has to happen? They have to touch either the neutral wire or the ground, or another wire of different potential. That's like the birds on the wire. They sit up there, and as long as they don't make contact with each other, they're fine. Squirrels that come out of the woods, come across your shed roof, jump on top of your step-down transformer, sneak across the power line, jump off of your pecan tree, and steal your pecans. You can take care of them easily by sitting in the hallway upstairs, take the screen out, lay back in the chair, and use a 22. The true revenge, though, is when they're going back to the transformer, and that little tail, that little fluffy thing, goes across two of the terminals. Poof, no more squirrel. I like my pecans. They're mine, they're not the squirrels. You don't have possession of them. But anyway, so electricity can cause great things to happen and also cause great injury. An average of one worker is electrocuted on the job every day. One day. There are four main types of electrical injuries that are received. One, of course, is electrocution, death due to electric shock. Electrical shock, which produces some pretty severe injuries. Burn, which are a byproduct of electrical shock. And falls, where people are working either on scaffolding, on ladders, or whatever they're doing the work. That is a secondary type injury. They're not injured by the current. They're pulling away from it, and as they pull away, they fall. So, what type of burns are we talking about associated with electrical shock? First, second, and third can be various. The problem with that is what? When you talk about dealing with electrical burns from electrical shock, you're going to have usually two. You're going to have an entrance wound and an exit wound. Yeah, pretty much crater. I may have a couple examples for you to look at. Oh yeah, right after lunch is good. At least it was better before lunch. You wouldn't eat lunch. But the thing is, you need to be aware of this. My father worked for the electric company for 47 years before he retired. My oldest brother worked in the construction crew for the same electric company, traveling around 4 different states, putting in generation stations, substations. He was on the construction crew, operated the crane, all the heavy equipment. When my dad started with the electric company, he started as a tree trimmer, worked up to a lineman, troubleshooter, inside man. So I know about the ins and outs. I've seen it and I know the fact that if I have problems with electrical current, I don't work on it. I pick up the phone and call somebody. Just like riding a motorcycle. If you're afraid of it, it'll hurt you. But if you respect it, you'll enjoy it. If you fear electrical current, it'll cause you harm. Because you won't know what to do, you'll put yourself in harm's way. So be aware of it. Know that it's there. It can hurt you, but if you respect it, it's fine. It'll run the air conditioner in the summer, furnace in the winter. What else could you ask for? I know to run the current to that refrigerator we got in the grocery store. But look at some of the terminologies. Current. What is current? Current is a measurement of the electrical charge. You always hear that current's being measured in two different ways. You'll hear that also 750 kV line. Well, this is 40 amps, 200 amps. Our concern is amperage. Amperage is what it does on. Resistance to this current. This is anything that causes an opposition of that current flow. To use a real simple correlation. Water to electricity. If I open a fire hydrant, I've got a 6-inch water line, a flow of water coming out, and how far does it go? Maybe 15 feet. What happens when I shut the water off and put that reducer down and reduce it down to an inch or an inch and a half line? Am I still only going at 15, 20 feet? No, that's shooting out there. What size wiring do you have inside your walls? And in the workplace? 12 gauge. 12-3. 12 gauge 3 wire. Better be a 3 wire in the workplace.
Well, it depends on what you're running though, too.
Say again?
Depends on what you're running. How many watts you're running through and how big the equipment is.
Oh, wait a minute, you just said something different, though. We haven't talked about that, have we? Haven't mentioned that one. Watts. The rating that's used to determine, yeah. But in most cases, even in homes, 12 gauge wire is what's used. Comes from the distribution box when it comes in the house, brings it in the workplace, and runs through it. What do you plug in, usually from that receptacle, to run different appliances, different things? A cord. A temporary cord. Be used for less than 90 days. Be temporary cord. Be temporary wiring. Otherwise, it's permanent and don't meet the requirements of the standard. What size is that cord you're using, that flux cord? 16, maybe 14. Usually 16. And some of you are using that, what's got a triple head on the end of blue, an 18 gauge. Well, it's got 3 adapters on it, so I need that. The coffee pot, the space heater. Gotta have a radio. Or a fan. So you're running all this. You're doing the same thing with electrical current that I just did with fire hydrants. You're taking that current coming in, going to the distribution box, your 200 or 400 amp box, whatever it is, coming into there. This 12 gauge wire goes to the receptacle, and you're just squeezing it down. What happens when you put that more resistance on that electrical line at that point? Creates heat. That's the reason you're always supposed to never put an extension cord under a rug. Never attach it to a wall. Never run it through a wall, a ceiling, a floor. Kind of simple. It makes it more understandable now, doesn't it? But yet you find it every day. You're not supposed to use that flex cord and secure it in any way, either by tie wraps or anything, to frames of storage racks. But if you stop and think, and I'll tell with a smile, you've got at least one location in mind where you know it's there. But by using that smaller cord, you're actually causing the same amount of current to be forced through a smaller line, just like I did with the water with the fire hydrant. Voltage. Voltage is a means of electrical force. We talk about 3 different ones: voltage, watts, and amps. They all come into play. Depends on what level field you're playing on. Conductors. Substances such as metals. These are things that basically have little resistance to electricity.